Welcome back to CBS4K, and let's talk about Ubisoft. I'm not going to waste time with this one. We're just going to talk about some of the more recent controversies that happened with Ubisoft this year. Mostly centered around the games. We could talk about how they treat their employees, but if we talk about all the things they do, we're going to be here for like hours and hours. So let's just focus on one aspect. Let's focus on the games and the games releases. Now, some would say that the game releases have been subject to a new thing called toxic positivity, where they just say nothing but positive things, reaffirming things, nothing too negative. Nobody's allowed to be negative. No one's allowed to criticize anything that goes on in game development. Now, I understand they don't want to hurt nobody's feelings, but there's ways to say that. And there's ways There's ways to give criticism without hurting people's feelings. Now, that in mind, they really needed to hurt people's feelings. Just looking at some of the games and some of the results that have been happening over the past year. We won't even look at the earlier years. Again, if we talk about everything, we'll be here for like 3 hours. So let's focus on basic things. Let's talk about one of the first things they said this year in early January. One of the higher ups said gamers should get used to the idea of not owning their games. That rubbed people the wrong way. Now, to be fair, I didn't know too much about the context of the statement, but just the statement itself kind of didn't play well, in the gaming circles at all. So it's understandable that they got some blowback from that, and that they're getting there's some schadenfreude that's happening right now because of their suffering. Their stock is down. There's rumors of their company is just like, they don't know the future of the company. Like, if you're working at Ubisoft, I would recommend you look up the one ads, or you get ready to be let go and start working for yourself or somewhere else, because you're not going to be there in a few years, most likely. But let's start with the first game. Well, not the first game of the year, but let's talk about the game called X-Defiant. Let's see if we can find it on the Ubisoft forward here that I've pilfered and used as my way to talk about the game. I don't know too much about this game, I'm going to be honest. I just know sparse stuff about it. All I know is it's not doing well. It was supposedly not doing well at launch. I don't know if it's doing well now. But I don't know if it was doing so spectacularly well and it was restoring Ubisoft's position in the gaming market as one of the best, then it would have been touted by Ubisoft almost ad nauseum. The fact that it wasn't means, well, it's not doing that great. And that's fair. That's fair. But we could talk about the negativities of all that, but let's talk about Prince of Persia. Prince of Persia has been one of the few bright spots in their catalog at the moment. The problem is, I don't hear too many people talking about it. It's not selling like Black Myth Wukong numbers. It's not selling like that. It's selling decently. I don't know how well that's going to sustain their company, because running a gaming company is expensive. First of all, one single solitary building will cost like a workspace, an office building, an office area would cost money to have the place initially, whether you're renting it or buying it or keeping it. And of course there's the sense of, well, you gotta have utilities, like heating and stuff like that. And you just can't say, well, we can, you guys can be cold for a while. Like, no. So, it takes a lot of money to run this company. It takes a lot of money to make these games. And it's incredibly expensive, so they have to do well. And, as we go into the next one, Skull and Bones here, I honestly don't think it did. Well, you know what? Let's talk about the crew. I didn't talk. There's so much to talk about. Like I said, let's just use this. Just pretend this is a crew. So the crew, it's got its server shut down, and since it's not a offline game whatsoever, it's completely online. The game no longer exists. That's what people have been telling me. And if it's wrong, if you own the crew, please go in the comment section and tell me what's up with that. Because I don't know too much about it. Because, again, I didn't own the crew. I'm kind of surprised that Ubisoft shut it down. It's kind of damaging to the rep again. But hey, it's not my company. What have you? Skull and Bones. Let's just go to Skull and Bones. I'm just getting through this as quickly as I can so we can get to like the meat of it, which is Skull and Bones, Star Wars Outlaws, and Assassin's Creed Shadows. So Skull and Bones. For those of you who don't know, it's basically a pirating game. You sail a ship and stuff like that. Can you get off the ship? No, you can't. Well, you can get off it, but you can do it in like a little like menu screen and stuff like that. It's very limited. Now, Assassin's Creed Black Flag is probably one of my favorite games of all time. It's probably one of the greatest Assassin's Creed games of all time because it had pirates and stuff in it. And you seamlessly transitioned from going on foot to going to a pirate ship. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. I remember playing it and having a good time, and I looked up Skull and Bones at the beginning of its marketing tour. Let's just call it that. Thinking, oh cool, this will be fun. And then over time, I gradually got disinterested, and I barely know anything about the game right now. It's specifically there is no land combat. Now, you probably think, what's the big deal? There's no land combat. Again, Assassin's Creed Black Flag had land combat, so if you can't outdo something that's a game that's years older than the current one you worked on, I have to ask, like, well, what did you prioritize when you were making this game? Honestly, it's sort of, I wouldn't say it's over for this game. I mean, they could still work on it, still can make a comeback. Everything can make a comeback. Cyberpunk made a comeback. Most games can make a comeback if they put the effort in. That's not the issue. The issue is Ubisoft has several games that need to make a comeback. So, yeah, let's talk about the next one. Oh, Star Wars Outlaws. I got a list on you, boy. I got a list on you, Star Wars Outlaws. Alright. So, those of you who got early access, and you got the bug where the save basically had to be reset, I'm really sorry about that. That was messed up. You had to restart the whole game. Like, dude. Now, some games, I don't mind restarting. Like, it was a really good game, a really fun experience. But I get the feeling a lot of people didn't enjoy this as much as they appeared. I know people's tastes are different. And let me just preface this entire conversation. These are my opinions. This is what I think. I haven't played the game myself, but I have noticed that other people's complaints kind of make sense about the game. It feels like this could have done with. I think this could have done with a little bit more time of being designed. Like, the choices don't matter. Like, they could have let you customize your own character, but they didn't. Like, and there's the bugs, the massive bugs, the poor optimization. This game has a lot of problems going in already. And that's why it has very low user scores. It has a poor sales. I don't know how much the game costs. I just know it probably cost a lot. And let's talk about the quadruple A statement they also made this year. They said Skull and Bones was their first quadruple A game, and people have been making fun of this game, calling Star Wars Outlaws a quadruple A game, and it's just like, well, first of all, I don't know if it is a quadruple A game. It just may just be a triple A game. And like the very idea that Ubisoft said quadruple A, and like there's some hot stuff on like, no, Ubisoft, you're not, no, calm down. They've been made fun of just relentlessly ever since that statement. But I don't think they ever said this was a quadruple. I think this was probably meant to be a triple A game. And it's... I'm going to be honest. Looking at the scenery here, looking at the sales, looking at the complaints, it sounds more like a double A game. I haven't played it myself, so I don't know for sure. But just going off of what we see on the screen and what you hear about, and just the Let's Plays and the streams and the reviews, and it doesn't look good. It looks pretty terrible. It looks awful. Like, you could say, well, you haven't played it, so how would you fully know? Well, look. You can see the writing on the wall just by looking at it. There's certain parts of the game, like you can just see the bugginess, the low effortness in certain parts of it. You can tell that it's probably going to be a miserable experience. Most people can tell that from most games. That's why people like watching reviews, like watching Let's Plays. They like getting an idea for the game before they say yes to purchasing it. And this game has like the most unfortunate thing about just it's, I wouldn't say terrible. Actually, I would kind of say terrible. This is bad. IGN gave it a 7 out of 10 for what it's worth. For most people, they would say it's like maybe a 4 or 5 out of 10. I heard some people give it a 2 out of 10. Some people have said it's worse than Gollum. It's, wow, that's unnecessary. But you know what? I respect their experience. I respect their experience. Now, I'm just going to say this as openly and straight up as I can. The Star Wars fan base is not in a good place. I've said this in previous videos. This game needed to help bring back the fan base. Bring back the customer base for Star Wars. Get them to buy this game. It doesn't have that ability. The gameplay wasn't groundbreaking at all. It wasn't anything unique too much about it. It seemed very bog standard. There was no memorable... The character of Kay isn't that memorable. And I'm sorry, they're probably never going to use this character again. She's probably just going to be thrown out into the dump and forgotten about. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. Like, they really put themselves in a bad spot. And you can tell it was a bad spot because they lost a ton of money. They were supposed to have it only on their Ubisoft game thing or whatever. Now they're just swifting it over to Steam. They're basically on one knee. Please, Steam. Please help us. Please, Valve. We'll be your best friend. And it's like the most pathetic thing ever. I'm not saying it's over for them. They could release some patches, some updates, some DLC, and get it up there to maybe up to a 6 or a 7. We'll see. But if you're asking me, I would probably, off of what I've seen, give it a 4 or a 5. Maybe a 3. No, actually, maybe a 3 out of 10. Because the game... Look at this. The game, it doesn't have anything too unique about it to draw people in. Other than the fact that it's basically a standard Ubisoft game without climbing towers. The platforming, I've been told, is terrible. I've seen some of the platforming. It seemed off. They got yellow paint everywhere, telling you like, yeah, climb this. And when there's one place is like over there, they don't have yellow paint here. So people would struggle with, well, where can I climb? I can't climb over there. Because you put yellow paint everywhere they climb, so they're used to thinking yellow paint climb, yellow paint climb, yellow paint swing on a rope. Okay, now that I've thoroughly stomped on Star Wars Outlaws for a few minutes, I just want to end it with one thing. I am a Star Wars fan, and I was interested in this, but after seeing people play it, seeing some reviews, some streams, some Let's Plays, my interest slowly started to die off. I don't know if it'll come back. Maybe when it gets on Steam, maybe it gets on sale. Maybe I'll give it a fair chance. Maybe I'll give it a review, but I don't know. Right now, it doesn't interest me at the moment. Let's move on. Assassin's Creed Shadows. Let's just get this out of the way. Yasuke was a poor choice. Yeah. Yasuke was a poor choice. It's okay. First of all, it's dubious if he even existed. Second off, if he did exist, he didn't take any part in any battles. He didn't take part in any duels. So, well, he could have existed. I'm not saying it's impossible, or I'm telling you factually he did not exist, or factually he did exist. It's almost irrelevant because he had no real impact, and probably most importantly, he's not Japanese, and this is a Japanese-centered game. People don't want to play as Yasuke, as a black man in Japan. They want to play as a Japanese samurai. Look at Ghost of Tsushima. They even got it right with the Japanese ninja, female ninja. I haven't heard too many nice things about her either, so. But here's the sad part about this whole situation. Her gameplay looks solid. It looks pretty good. It looks like Assassin's Creed stuff. You're swinging on a rope. You jump down. You assassinate people. It looks pretty good. Doesn't look too bad. Like, she's crawling into the... Like, look at this. The cultural iconography is terrible in this. It doesn't... I shouldn't say terrible. Like, they didn't do... I've been told a number of people said, like, certain things in here they don't have aren't Japanese, they're from other cultures. And I don't know the validity of that. I haven't really been keeping up with this game, nor do I know too much about Asian cultures to specifically narrow down which was which. But I do know, for one thing, you have to have a lot of research done for this a game like this. You have to have a lot of people working behind the scenes, getting a research idea of what, well, Japan would look like in this era. If you don't have people who know anything about Japanese working on this game, or who are not skilled in their culture, you should have a cultural expert with them, getting advice from them, telling them what they should and could do, what items they can use, bringing in things for them to program into the game, Like this is cool right here. This is fun. I think I would enjoy this, but it'd be so historically inaccurate. And it's like, well, who cares about that? Like, it's fair enough. We're not all history nerds, but at the same time, if it's not all that authentic, it's going to get the wrong attention. And it got a lot of attention from Japan. Oh boy. Some people say Star Wars Outlaws is the reason I pushed this back to February. I would argue that it was Japan's reaction to it that got pushed back to February. They're trying to figure out a way to do this without getting screamed at. So they're in a really awkward spot. And I don't blame Japan for being negative towards this. Think about this. If they'd done a game in like another country and they used someone who's not ethnically from there, they would be upset too. Like, that's just a fact. You can say, well, that's not very inclusive of you. It's like, well, no. But you can't just tell them, okay, it's not very inclusive of you for not using people who are not ethnically from there. You are culturally appropriating their culture. Culturally appropriating their culture to culturally. I can't speak to that. You are appropriating their culture in a very ugly manner, and you're also making this whole entire conversation awkward. Like, we can't say anything about it too negative because we might come off as racist to black people. We might come off as racist to Asians if we say if we're pro. Like, this entire situation is weird, and Ubisoft has made it weird. They really did not need to do it this way. Like, everything else about the game is fine. The graphics, they gave him a hip-hop soundtrack, which was weird. I found that in Asmongold clip, and I was just like, dude, why? Why did you do that? Why? I think that's my main question about this game, is why. Yeah, just humiliate those Japanese men. They're called. Yeah, just humiliate them. Yeah, lift them up. Make them feel embarrassed about themselves. Yeah, This is bad for Ubisoft. So, here's the thing. Can they recover from this? I would say depends. Can they, if they're willing to fix certain things about the game or undo certain aspects or just release better games in the next few years, it might be a recoverable situation. But their stock is in the dirt. Investors are losing faith. They're talking about selling the company or breaking it up or doing whatever. Just the bad outweighs the good from Ubisoft at the moment. And I understand why people are freaking out about it. Their higher-ups are freaking out. Everyone else doesn't care. Like, most people are overjoyed that Ubisoft is miserable. People are just pointing and laughing. And you know what? You should not feel bad about that at all. I'm telling you right now, if you think oh man, I feel kind of bad, I'm laughing at these people. People are losing their jobs. Don't worry about that. You're not the one who's firing them. You're not the one who's destroying their business. You're just simply observing. If I could say something to Ubisoft's higher-ups, you really need to fix certain things about your company, like right now. I don't know if that's evident to you. I don't know if it's kind of coming through, but you might be in a spot of trouble. So, overall, what I think of Ubisoft. Well, back in the day, Ubisoft created the Assassin's Creed. They created the Far Cry games. But can I ask you something? The games that they make outside of that aren't that popular. They're just not. There's a few exceptions to that, but the Prince of Persia games aren't like selling the charts like crazy. The Crew isn't selling like, I think there's Mario and Rabbids, but that's just a derivative of Mario, Rabbids, and XCOM. Like, the simple fact of the matter is, Ubisoft. Wow, that's a cool feature. Ubisoft doesn't have anything that's worth. I don't know. I don't say worth saving. It's just like they don't have anything too memorable about the company outside of the Assassin's Creed and like the Far Cry and maybe Prince of Persia, maybe Mario Rabbids. And they've just been making that on almost nonstop on a loop for the past few years. So, or derivatives of that. So it's not a surprise that they're in this position. They don't have enough, I wouldn't say skill. They don't have enough of the ability to, well, to save the company. That's the sad fact about it. They don't have the ability to save the company because they don't know what their consumers, their customers, their fan base want. They just know how to do their very basic setup of the games they've been doing for years now. And, dude, that's not enough. You're going to push out there. Things change all the time in the gaming sphere, and well, if you don't change with it, you're going to be left behind. Anyway, that's all right. I have an update. Tencent had is trying to buy up Ubisoft, and I don't think you shouldn't be surprised by this because let's be honest, Ubisoft had ran itself into the ground. Whether it's been ESG money or just been bad design or bad planning, it really deserved it. You can't keep coming up with failure after failure in a very expensively run in a billion-dollar gaming company. Investors aren't going to put up with it. Like, it's not going to last. Your customer base isn't almost non-existent at this point. Well, if you make one really good game, you will get customers back, but it'll be just for that game. They might not even come back for more. Like, your customer base has been shredded. Your name is basically worth spit. It's basically, I don't know. It's been destroyed over the past few years, and you're going to be bought up by Tencent. Like, being bought up is possibly the most likely result of what's going to happen now. Because what else could happen than you being bought up by something? And it's by a Chinese company. So, there is that. Now, to question what the deeper meaning of that and what's the problems of that and all that other stuff, I'm not an expert on that. You're going to have to go search for an expert on that. But I'm actually curious what your opinions are on it. Go ahead and put that in the comment section. And I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.